Okay, first thing we're gonna do is try and loosen up the screws back here on the exhaust tube. I think we can keep these in place. Since this thing should line back up when you slide it in, you just gotta loosen it up. So now I taped up the area around the hole just for protection when you're scraping at it later. Just got to remove the screws. Don't think I'm going to show you this whole thing. They actually come out pretty easy. Thought they might be kind of glued in there tough, but not really a problem. Okay, we're going to spray on some Debond and let it sit for a little bit. Okay, so we're going to be probing around. You can kind of see how I can get a small amount of that glue up already on the edges. At least if I score it, I can spray more Debond in there. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, you can see the knife is really soaking in there right now, sinking in there. So I'm going to just start with a wedge now and just start hammering it. I'm going to need both hands for that, so I can't record it, but yeah, it's sinking right in there. So I can just wedge it out. Okay, status update. So got the first wedge in here without too much difficulty, about 10 minutes in. Just scrape in. I applied Debond a few times, using the butter knife to start it and kind of chisel out a hole for it. And then once I got this one started, doing this one, I think it's easier to hammer from the top. Tried some on the side, it's not working as well. So we're just gonna keep trying. Pounding this one in some, pounding this one in some, pounding this one. Etch away at that side. And should come out here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I think. Okay, it's coming along pretty good. I'm gonna spray some Debond into the gaps I've created. So it seems like once you start getting it, it does like crack the edge of the old one, but that's how it takes to get it off, and then it all starts coming once it starts, but it breaks the old flange. Okay, status update. Tried to cut a piece out thinking I could pull it apart as chunks easier. That's not really helping. Took out the bolt on here so I could have a little more space. I think this is the part that's more sticky still. I think this is pretty clear. I can put a 1x4, and when I have the Debond in there, I can see a little bit of movement and squishiness on the left side. Not much though, but obviously this whole collar on the inside is going to be the inside of the transom, which is probably an inch thick transom, is coated with the glue as well. So yeah, I'm about probably an hour and 40 minutes into it. Still haven't got it out. Okay, status update. The best technique that I can recommend is putting a long screwdriver all the way through a side so it's taking up a couple of inches of the flange. It's finally really breaking free now. That's the best technique I can recommend for you guys so far. Okay, so status update. I drilled a hole through here so I could try and get some leverage to try and give it some torque and stuff. This actually came out and it looks like it's two separate pieces for this thing. The flange portion and this basically is in there just so tight. I mean, there's some glue obviously in between it, but it's just in there so tight. It's friction holding it in there too. So this is a real nightmare, honestly. Wouldn't have done it had I known how much of a nightmare it was going to be, but it'll get out eventually. I'll have to try again now to cut it into little pieces with a saw to get it out. Okay, so now I'm just literally chiseling it all out. It's the only thing I can do. So the inside actually has adhesive around it. So the only way for me to possibly get it out, I don't know if this is different for you. This stuff is wasn't adhered at the bottom, but on the sides and on the top, whatever that white stuff is all adhered to it. And so there was no way this thing was ever going to come out how they thought that it should come out from the FAE. So I had to cut it using a reciprocating saw into a couple of pieces so I could pull it out. Just got to be super careful so you don't cut any of that rubber tube that's further in there for the exhaust. Okay, you're going to want to clean up the inside of this where there's any specks of glue and stuff like this white rim that's in here. I already cleaned up a little bit using a grinding bit on my drill. Got to make sure you have something for everything's all clean so that the glue adheres to something stable. Okay, so the template they give you is wrong. That's their generic one. So the best thing you gotta do is you're gonna have to put the actual FAE up here, then mark the holes with a Sharpie, put down some tape. The holes are offset, I can tell, because this corner is a little bit thinner than these corners. So that's why they're doing that, I'm assuming.